Hello everyone and welcome back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla with me, longclawvalhalla and Steel, where we always deliver. Remember Kiativ the Cruel? Well, his son Gorm barely escaped with his life the last time I faced him, but escape he did. Now I've received word that he has resurfaced and not close at hand. To end this long-standing blood feud, Eivor will need to travel the high seas all the way to the strange lands where Gorm has been sighted, and as luck would have it, Rhandi has found a ship willing to take me on the voyage. So, let's go to Vineland. Vinland is located way over in the northern tip of what we now know as North America, very close to Canada, and the journey itself takes 3 weeks to get there. Once Eivor arrives dressed as a thrall to make him look like a Norse commoner, just to avoid any suspicion, he needs to speak to the woman in charge on the bankside. Listening to the conversation will confirm that Gorm is close by, and the best lead Eivor has is to look for her brother, Olaf, who has gone missing from his morning duties. So head up the hill and into the storeroom and follow the blood trail until you reach a settlement that's a little way behind the mountain. This can all seem a little bit crazy at first. You're in a completely different place, a very strange surrounding, without any of your weapons, but remember you still have all of your skills and your abilities, so focus on the task at hand, tracking down Gorm, taking him out, and that's really all you've got to do. Everything else is up for you to explore. There's plenty of synchronization points, so I would begin with synchronizing to the nearest spot, and then at least you can fast travel around, and you'll see when you synchronize that there's a nice little settlement just behind the synchronization spot on the top of the mountain. Once you're in the settlement, interact with the locals and they will take you to Olaf. It seems the locals are used to Gorm and his men roaming around, so they're not going to harm you in any way, and they're not suspicious. Although you can't understand each other, they do seem to be a peaceful people. And when you show them your bird, your raven, it seems to break the ice. I notice at this stage that I also have no weapons except my assassin's blade, so I'm not completely vulnerable, but I do feel a little bit out on a limb here because I'm used to having my weapons at hand, and I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to find the bad guys and the adversaries that will be clearly lurking somewhere on the island. Once you're with Olaf, he assumes that you've come to kill him, as Gorm has already tried, and he thinks you've just come to finish the job. Olaf is hiding in a mountain cave, and he agrees to help you, give you the information that you need. He tells Eivor that Gorm has set up camps all around the island and they're heavily guarded, and he's in one of them, so this is your next lead. He also says that you can trade natural materials, animal skins and things you find out in the wild with the locals in their stores, and he gives you some materials to get started. He mentions that there are animals all over the place, some dangerous, and that you can also find materials within the camps that you can trade. And I didn't worry too much about this. I used the materials I had to trade for a club, and that was decent enough, and it did the job. But you can buy clothes and all sorts of other things, as well as blades and a new bow. Once you've got at least something in your hand, something you can use to kill animals and also protect yourself if you do come across Gorm in one of his camps, then you can set off. Now, you could spend as much time in Vineland as you want and explore and do everything, but if you're into trying to complete the story arcs, then you can always come back. But I focused on taking as much iron, and any animals I came across I just whacked them with the club, and there's some turkeys and things like that. And I found a boat down on the riverside and used it to sort of make my way towards where I thought Gorm's camp might be. And at this stage I hadn't come across it, and I'd seen a few little settlements and trading posts, but nothing that looked like it belonged to Gorm. But eventually, continuing to make my way, dodging the pumas and other wildlife that's clearly out to get me. That's the only thing I came across, no actual other people or bad guys or any of Gorm's men. I basically just kept on moving towards the area of the map, using my raven to guide me and look for areas that I can synchronize. And there's about 4 synchronization points, so as I started to unlock those, you start to see a bit more. You'll be surprised what you can stumble across in the woods. So I was gathering plenty of materials here, but never really needed to upgrade anything. When I reached one of the other synchronization points, I knew it was clear I'd found Gorm's camp, or at least one of them. Now, there are a number of these camps, and inside the camp there's all sorts of stuff you can take, wealth and things like that, but also clues which lead to where Gorm will be hiding and where he's located. And at this stage I knew that he could have been in any one of the camps, and you could spend quite a large amount of time surveying the island. But if you focus on just using your raven to figure out where the nearest areas are where you can check out, you'll find one of his camps. And taking out the guards in the camp with just my club was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. You can assassinate the majority of the guards, and the rest of them, it's just as long as you're proficient with using the dodge, you'll be able to avoid their attacks and take them out. They're not heavily armored, to be honest, and they're not super overpowered. And just collect everything you can until you get enough clues that suggest that you know the direction. And for me, as soon as I found out that Gorm was in the northwest of the map, I used that as my next lead, and that's important. So you need to know exactly where you're headed, otherwise you're going to be running around in circles. And once you know that he's headed off to the northwest, I could see that there was one final area which I hadn't synchronized yet, and I'm picking up all the wealth as I go, and that is also, again, it's going to help me when I get back to Ravensthorpe, and I can use that to help me upgrade. There are a heavy number of guards around in these areas, and Olaf did say that the guards would be they're heavily armored, and it's more the sheer number of them. There are a fair amount of chests that you could loot as well, but each one of the main wealth chests, you need a separate key for that. So again, using your raven to figure out where the keys are, and then you'll have to travel back, maybe across the bridges to get to the wealth and unlock it. I'm also enjoying knocking people over the cliffs and off the mountain edges. If you can get into combat close to the edge of a mountain or a cliff, you can make it much easier for yourself. But I'm enjoying this club. I can see that there was a cave entrance, and I think that this is probably where Gorm is located. It's the only camp in the northwest of the map, and entering in via the cave entrance just gives me that little bit of stealth that I'm looking for. And I killed a couple of guards that were down there. There's really nothing down below, but as soon as I hit the ladder and started to come up to ground level, I could hear Gorm's voice, and a strange voice that I didn't recognise. Eivor here is really just nailing these guards one by one, and if you do focus on sneaking around, he can easily take out guards. Even if there's two of them, you can assassinate. I haven't got a double blade, but you can assassinate both guards at the same time simply by using one of your abilities. And if you've ranked up to around 200, you should be strong enough and powerful enough to take on any of these enemies. And now I know I've found Gorm. I've got a waypoint on my map, you can see, and I'm just focusing on clearing out as many of these before I face him. And if I can sneak up behind him and take him out, I will. However, I think the more noise I make and the more of his guards I alert, he's going to start getting involved in battle. But I'm not worried about that. For now, I'm just focusing on trying to thin out the numbers. I'm about 70 meters away from him, and I'll just keep moving towards him that way, taking out guards. The last thing I want is a swarm of guards. And when he does get involved in a battle, it's over very quickly. Again, he takes himself far too close to the edge, and I ended up knocking him over. And get your confirmed killing and see your post-death scene. Gorm is disappointed that he's not ended up in the halls of Valhalla. Dishonourable as he is, his life has paid. He's paying the price for the deeds in his life, and I can finally end the blood feud that has haunted me for so long. And one final thing is that he turns over his crystal globe that he's been using to guide him, and Olaf mentioned that he had a crystal ball that he talks to and that tells him where to go, and it seems that there's something very mysterious about this ball. And I start to think about the location we're in and why he chose this strange island. And as soon as we're done with this scene, I'm going to head into the cave and see if I can interact with the wall and find out what this is all about. Now, this seems a little bit familiar from previous episodes of Assassin's Creed, and I'm hoping I can interact with this wall and pop it in. But it seems that Eivor is not meant to be interacting with it, no matter what I try and do, and I tried this several times. He just says it's not for me and puts it away in his bag. So I'm not sure if this is somewhere I'm going to come back to. Maybe Eivor needs to finish some of the other story arcs and then come back here. I don't have that many to do. After this, I need to head back to Norway with my brother Sigurd. When I interact with Olaf, he invites me to come and listen to some stories, and in fact I'm asked to tell the story of my own, and I gladly do. You can't understand anything they're saying, but it's still quite a nice scene to watch the locals listening to you, and they can't understand you, but it's all about how you tell the story. And this is just awesome gameplay to watch. You realise that you're really in a next gen world here, and this is the advantage of all of the Assassin's Creed games, the historical accuracy, and it really makes you feel like you're doing something that you're quite privileged to see. So Eivor does tell his story, and he talks of the gods and Odin and some of the famous Viking tales that he would have been told as a boy. And this is just leading you towards, you're heading back soon. And I'm starting to think, am I going to be able to come back here and just go back to Rhandi and travel back here to interact with that wall? Because clearly there's some significance there, and there must be a very good reason why Eivor is not able to interact with it at this stage. You'd expect to be able to put it in the wall and it would light something up, some kind of thing, maybe every time you kill an Order member, but I don't know. I mean, if any of you have played Odyssey, that's very similar. There's a place there in Odyssey where you can go and interact every time you take out an Order member. You can collect a certain number of the tokens, but I don't know. Eivor actually gets the ball out, and he seems to feel like he shouldn't take it with him, so he gives it to the young girl who was telling the story and tells her to take care of it and try and figure out its mystery. So I'm definitely convinced that I was going to be able to come back here. He does go back to the bankside and speak to Hildy and reveals himself as Eivor, and has one final task to bring Olaf back to his sister before he leaves, and then it's just report back to Rhandi and tell her what has happened. Now we're getting very close to, I keep thinking I'm running out of story arcs and then one more unlocks, At the end of the last story arc, I unlocked a mission which Sigurd told me he wants me to take him back to Norway, so that's where I'm heading next. So why don't you guys come with me? Thanks for watching this, take care, and I'll be back in another video very soon.